Hey, good evening, good evening. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Carolina Panthers talk right here on the U to the Tube, brought to you by Blitzball Champ Gaming. I'm your host, Blitzball Champ Jason Ingram. I wanted to talk a little bit and kind of give my thoughts on the recent pre draft press conference that took place earlier today. They also posted an article or two on the Carolina Panthers website, just pretty much kind of a summary of some of the main points that were talked about in this press conference. And I mean, it was quite it was quite interesting. I can't say there was really anything surprising, but just to kind of go over, a few things that was said. Let's start with quarterback. Now, I'm not going to say what was said about quarterback and options there were vague, but let me just read a couple of notes. So, and like I said, you can check out the article on the Panthers website. I'll link it in the description. But pretty much when talking about options at quarterback, for example, drafting a quarterback, there wasn't really a surefire commitment. It was talked about the idea of exploring the option of bringing in a veteran quarterback. Of course, if it were to happen, it would happen after the draft, supposedly. Because I mean, right now we have to remember, right now we only have Sam Darnold and PJ Walker. And some of the things that Scott Fitterer said, I'll read here. He says, and I quote, "We talked about it since the season. We want to stabilize the quarterback position. We need consistent play out of that. I sat down with Sam yesterday, Sam Darnold, that is, and we talked about everything. We need to help him out as well. We need to help him out with the O-line, the offensive line. I think we've done a good job keeping DJ Moore here and Christian McCaffrey and surrounding him with talent, so he doesn't feel like he has to make every play. And we do have to protect him." So I think, at least in that, right then and there, you might as well go ahead and forget about any idea of trading away Christian McCaffrey. It sounds like that's just flat out not going to happen. So, any thoughts or anything about the idea of trading away Christian McCaffrey, I think right then and there puts that to bed. That ain't happening. So, we might as well just go ahead and move on from that idea. Barring anything crazy, we need to just move on from that idea. I mean, after all, there's a reason why he's still here. He also said, and I quote, "In our conversation, I said, hey, listen, we're going to add to this group. Through this weekend, there's a pretty good chance we could add to this group. It's an open competition. It's his spot right now, being Sam Darnold. But whoever can take this spot can run with it. We're going to do that. Whoever can take this spot and run with it, we're going to do that." He was good with it. We're all on the same page, and we know we need to stabilize that position, and we're looking forward to adding to it. Now, what I take from this, just in this part alone, I could see either two things happening. Either one, they might consider, after this draft, trade for a veteran quarterback, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's Baker Mayfield, something along that lines. Or we could literally see Carolina use that 6th pick on a quarterback. Plain and simple as that. I think one of those two things may happen. After hearing what is said about quarterback and options and pretty much adding to it, I could see one of those two things happening. Either they're going to be serious about going for a veteran quarterback, or they just may actually use that first round pick on a quarterback. Whether it's Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, whichever. I honestly don't see Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis being there past, say, 20 or 15, which I think that's the risk that they take if they do trade back. I don't see Pickett or Malik Willis going past 15 or past 20. I think they'll be off the board by that time. That's my prediction. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think one of those two things could happen. But it sounds like some way, somehow, regardless of what option they pick, they're going to address the quarterback situation to some degree. Whether it's they're going to roll with Sam Darnold and just stack weapons and major protection around him, or they're going to give him some serious competition at the quarterback spot. What does that end up looking like? Remains to be seen. But I am thinking one of those two things could happen. We go and trade for a veteran quarterback, or they end up using that first pick on a quarterback. That's just my thoughts. Okay, when it was talking about draft options, what moves to make, Scott Fitterer wasn't really zoning in on any specifics in regards to, first round, trading back, whatnot. I mean, we have to remember, he made 5 trades last year. So, I mean, it's the trade back king. That's what he's known for, is the trade back king. He mentioned that there have been some, there's some talks, there's some inquiries about their 6th pick. But he has said that they are not going to trade just to add bulk like they did last year. So the idea is that they're not going to pretty much, I guess, trade to add picks or trade away next year's picks just for the sake of adding draft capital and picks for this draft. That makes me nervous. It was also mentioned that, it is a complicated situation because they are short on picks this year. I mean, they only have 6 total, and their first pick is round 1, pick number 6. Their next pick wouldn't be until pick number 137 of round 4. So barring any sort of trade that'll cut into that. The Panthers will pretty much go once and then 3 times quickly. 137, 144, 149, which is, fourth round, and then that'll cut into the fifth round because they do have 2 picks in the fifth round. So Scott Fitterer personally said that the meat of this draft would be between ranked 25th and 50th ranked players, which they don't have a pick in that range, which is true. He also said, and I quote, "Whether we're picking 2 or 137, we don't know what we're going to acquire in between either. So we have to be prepared at every level and pick with who we want." And apparently, according to college scouting director Cole Spencer, they apparently had 156 names on their draft board. That's a lot of names to really consider, especially having as big of a gap as we have between pick 6 and pick 137. That's a huge gap. He also mentioned a pick 6 system, which apparently this system, according to here, allows an ordered list of the next group of prospects that refreshes through the weekend. So the core group making the decisions: Scott Fitterer, Matt Rule, David Tepper, Cole Spencer, Dan Morgan, who was also at this press conference, and Vice President of Player Personnel Pat Stewart. These are all names thrown into there. Scott Fitterer said, and I quote, "The next 6 players that we take at any pick are right on the board in the order that we take them. What that does, it takes out a lot of confusion. A lot of that is done as we're sitting up front. We'll be up there constantly tinkering on that pick 6 board. And that way, if they are back-to-back-to-back picks, we know exactly who we're taking as it goes. It also helps us identify how many players do we have. If all 6 are there, we could always trade back 3 or 4 or 5 spots and be assured we're going to get one of those players." What it sounds like to me is, I guess if there are a certain group of players that are there by the time we get to that 6th pick that are on their list, their board or whatnot, they might just end up taking who they feel is at the top with that 6th pick. That scares me. That scares me. Because you'd have to imagine a lot of those players are going to be gone by pick 137. Now, one thing he did mention was, he mentioned that cornerback C.J. Henderson is pretty much going to be treated like our 3rd round pick. I kind of sort of get that. I kind of sort of get what he means by that. I mean, I guess that sort of makes sense based on what we have. But I'm nervous. Not to mention, it had been said by Scott Fitterer that he felt like there are a couple of quarterbacks in this draft worthy of being picked at number 6. And he would feel comfortable doing that. Whew. Well, that right there kind of, goes on top of what I was saying earlier about the possibility of them actually going quarterback with that sixth pick. Now, I also came across this article on Cat Crave, which I'll also post in the description. This was 4 ways that Carolina Panthers can acquire draft capital in this draft, 2022. Number 1, Carolina Panthers could trade back from the number 6, which I really, really honestly think should happen. I really think that should happen. I think that's the best option to do so. Option number 2, Carolina Panthers could trade Christian McCaffrey, which honestly I don't see happening. There really hasn't been any sort of hint or whatnot that they'll do that, especially with Scott Fitterer saying that, talking to Sam Darnold and was, going to stack help and protection and weapons. And he mentioned DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. So I really don't see Carolina trading away Christian McCaffrey, especially not without having an idea in mind of a suitable replacement or a weapon of greater or equal value. That's just my take on that. Option number 3, they could trade for Baker Mayfield, which I still think is a possibility. But I think it would happen after the draft. So I think that's still a possibility. And then option number 4, Carolina Panthers could trade up into day 2. That's another thing that I could see happening as well. And Scott Fitterer seems like the guy that could do it. Being Mr. Trade Back, Mr. Open to explore options. Scott Fitterer seems like the kind of man that would entertain that idea. So, I don't know. What do y'all think about that? And like I said, I'll share that article into the description. But, I mean, when it comes to Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo or whatnot, I don't think they'll be in a rush. But I think it's really going to come down to how this draft goes, or what happens this weekend. That's going to determine things. Either sometime by the end of the draft or right after the draft. And from what I've been hearing, when it comes to quarterback, it sounds like if they were to pick based on availability, if everyone was there, word is that I guess there's a lot more noise towards Malik Willis being the quarterback Carolina would select if he's there with that 6th pick, more so than Kenny Pickett. Like I said, I don't know. That's what I've been hearing. I don't know, but it seems like Malik Willis has the edge. But like I said, me personally, I can't really pick a favorite quarterback out of this draft class. But it does say a lot when a lot of what's talked about is that the draft class for quarterback isn't strong. So either way, whether they go with a veteran quarterback or a rookie quarterback, it's a risk. I guess it really just comes down to which risk results in bigger, higher consequences? That I don't know. That I don't know. Because they both have their share of risks. But another piece of news is that it is confirmed that the Panthers will pick up the 5th-year option of edge rusher Brian Burns, which is $16 million, fully guaranteed. They are going to pick up that option. So, gonna be paying him. Gonna be paying him. So, Brian Burns is there to stay. But, anyway, personally, and there's been a lot of talks, talked to some folks that strongly feel that tackle may be what makes the most sense to go with, or might be the best option to go with, being that we're more than likely going to have a number of folks to pick from by the time it gets to number 6 when it comes to offensive line. Whether it's Charles Cross, Evan Neal, Kenyon Green, Iquanu. I'm pretty sure one or more of those guys will be there by the time it gets to the 6th pick. Tyler Lindenbaum is another one as well. But, as far as tackle, Evan Neal, Charles Cross, Ikem Iquanu, I'm pretty sure one or more of those guys will be there available at 6. But, like I said, using that 6th pick and then not picking again until 137, that's a huge gap. That is a huge gap. Because, last person that they drafted, first round, so it's a tackle, that was Jeff Oton. That was 10 years ago. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. But yeah, let me know what y'all's thoughts are. What did y'all think about the press conference? Scott Fitterer leading the charge. Dan Morgan was there, even though they didn't really ask a lot of questions for Dan Morgan. I felt like he was kind of left alone there. But what did y'all think of what was said for the most part in this pre-draft press conference? Is there anything that you liked, that you disliked? And like I said, I'll post links in the description. But let me know what you honestly think Carolina's going to do. And sure enough, we're going to find out Thursday night. It's going to be interesting. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. For another Carolina Panthers talk brought to you by Blitzball Champ Gaming here on the U to the Tube. I'm your host, Jason Ingram. Hope everybody has a blessed evening, and I will see y'all very soon. Peace out.